talk about what are family members most interested in regarding the transfer of rights and decision-making supports.
Okay, so I have to give some credit to my co-teacher, Abby Hallett. She's in the front. So we're running a summer camp this summer, and we worked like a 12-hour day yesterday, and then we got on the road at 8 p.m. to come to this conference. So we're both tired, but she helped me with these questions, so give her some credit too. But when we were talking in the car, most of the times families just don't know, like Anna said, where to even start or who to talk to about the transfer of rights. And once the conversation begins, it's usually obvious that the parents are unaware of any kind of alternative option. So based on the student's needs, there's different levels, whatever supports that the student needs, we need to individualize just like we do on the IEP. And that's what's so great about this Lighting the Way to Guardianship manual, is it goes through all the different types of decisions that we can make for our students. And also, like Anna said, they're just nervous. Parents are deathly afraid, when you bring up, okay, well, now they're 18. And similar to what the young lady said, your school district is way ahead of the game. I mean, I'm a transition educator, so I'm working with students that have already graduated and they're already 18, and Abby and I are the ones educating. There was no conversation in high school. So we're already, trying to play catch up with this parent and this student. And I do hate seeing that, but like you said, Anna, we've come a really far way. And the great thing about this presentation is we're giving you guys so many materials that you can actually take back and use in the IEP meetings, so that it's not just, here, sign this paper, this is another form that needs to be signed. It's an in-depth conversation about the options and the extra services and things out there that can help our students, and even having the conversation of what happens with the students when they age out of the school system at 22, because that conversation needs to be had a lot earlier than I think it has been in the past.
Okay. So something you said made me want to show you another resource. I think these are at the back. She talked about, you've got those materials there's a lot of information in them, but there are a series of guides, and Vicki, I'm sorry, I had them. I have them. There are a series of guides. There's one for parents, there's one for educators, and there's one for students. And they're on the back table, and it's a booklet that you can hand them in the IEP process that goes over the options. It has the options in here. It's got decision-making principles in it, and they're going to talk more about that later in the presentation. But I wanted to mention that that's part of the
Yep. So, and me and Anna and Daniel are going to role play how to actually utilize those in a transition IEP, and how to have that conversation with parents in a non-intrusive, polite way, and make the parent and the student feel comfortable.
Have you ever encountered families who disagreed with the student's choice of how to exercise their legal rights? So you've got them, they're 18, they're independent, they're able to make decisions, but the family's not agreeing. And if you run into that, how do you handle it?
That never happens. I wish I could say that, but no, yes. And again, when I was brainstorming with my co-teachers, so we're both fairly new teachers, so you guys are all probably way more experienced than we are, but the situations that we've encountered similar to this would be, and it's very unfortunate, is when a student wants to work for a paycheck and the parent does not want them to work in fear of losing the SSI benefits. I hear you guys, that is like the biggest uphill battle. I had a student that had an amazing job at a hotel. She was so excited. She had a job coach through Arc of the Big Bend, and we helped her get the job there, and her mom physically held her home and would not let her catch the city bus that we had worked hard to train her to get there, and she ended up missing 3 days of work and was let go. And the mom we tried to educate the mom, and it's just them being uneducated and kind of just being ignorant about certain things, unfortunately. And that can be a very difficult, touchy subject. But now I make sure to educate parents on the forefront as soon as I can. And let's see, what did I say? Oh, I made sure I went to some SSI work incentive trainings that APD put on. Yeah, and I did a lot of research. There's a lot of student work incentives where their check is pretty much protected as long as they don't go over a certain amount each month. So I really just had to educate myself, make sure the parent and the student knew about these incentives, and then I also made sure that my students' plans, because all of my students are clients of vocational rehabilitation, I made sure that the VR counselor amended their plan and put in WIPA services. So WIPA services are pretty much, it's WIPA, and I forget exactly what the acronym stands for. Great, perfect. So you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I just made sure that those were in place because every SSI case is so individual, and parents would ask me, well, can you tell me exactly how the check's going to be affected? And I don't even touch that. I just make sure that someone is there to counsel them and guide them through the process. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Amanda. I want to add to the FDDC.org website, Changing Face of Benefits is another resource that'll walk you through how to handle the benefits when a student is working.
Yes, thank you.
And it's really interesting. Remember that list of civil rights I showed you? We've talked about many situations that are on that list. What we just finished talking about is the right to be employed, the right to manage finances. So the legal rights is central and key to many issues facing transition, and it's important that you become aware and informed about them. Well, Daniel, you were patiently waiting for your turn. And as someone who, and you have to think back just a little bit, not too far, you've got a lot less farther to look back than I do, about when you turned 18. And I wanted to know from you, what was most exciting for you with regard to exercising your rights when you turned 18?
When I turned 18, I expressed my rights to finance and to the right to vote.
Okay, all right, great. And you're still exercising those rights, right?
I am.
All right, thank you. Do you all have any questions for any of the panelists? Jackie.
Hold on, wait, Miss Jackie. Hold on, Miss Jackie. There you go, go ahead.
When you were talking about SSI benefits, a lot of my parents have no idea that they even have those rights to those benefits. They've never heard of them. How do you get educated on that?
Woo. Well, I think really I utilize my VR counselor. We have one counselor that's assigned to my class of students, which really helps to kind of streamline information. And SSI, like I said, can be just such a tricky subject, and it's so individualized. I really don't think there's one answer. I think it's a case by case, and I think that you just need to make sure that whether it's through VR or APD, I know that there was a woman nodding, yeah, you're from APD. So does the APD have trainings? I know do they have more trainings for parents to kind of inform about those SSI issues?
Hello. The training that we offer is Introduction to Social Security Work Incentives, and it's open to anybody that wants to come. So it could be parents, it could be educators, it's our providers, VR counselors or providers as well. But folks that need assistance in applying for benefits, there's something called a Disability Program Navigator, and they assist individuals with navigating all types of disability programs. And it's through CareerSource is usually where you can find them. So I don't know if you have to be a job seeker already to utilize those services, or if families are able to. Maybe somebody else knows that, but they would be able to assist somebody with applying for benefits. Okay?
What was that name of that workshop again?
The Disability Program Navigator, or
The one that you're on?
Oh, Introduction to Social Security Work Incentives.
Okay, thank you.
If you see me later, I'll show you how to get to it from our website.
I hope you all appreciate the resource of flow of information back and forth. I
Yeah.
certainly am. There's a hand in the back.
Thanks. I just wanted to clarify the WIPA, that when you put that on their VR application or a part of their, what is it called? Their VR plan, what exactly is that?
Okay, so the WIPA services, as far as I know, again, I'm still pretty new trying to figure things out, but the WIPA services, when they're in place, I think that there's one person, I've heard her name's Ivy Sumney. I mean, it's really like one person, and I think she lives in Jacksonville. And I don't know if she works with some other people, but she is there and she works with her staff on contacting the family and literally going like number by number and helping the family recognize how the check will be affected, if it is going to be affected at all. So it really, is that correct? Okay.
Can I add some more?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There's the WIPA services, or they do benefits planning and analysis for folks that receive Social Security benefits when they go to work. So VR can refer folks for that. My understanding from VR, and I don't know if anybody is from VR here, but VR, if the student is still enrolled in school, they can't pay for the WIPA services. Once they're no longer a youth and they're an adult, they would pay for WIPA services. But you can get WIPA services if you call Social Security Administration Help Desk. It's a 1-800 number, and tell them this individual is going to work or considering work, or have the individual do it, or the parent if the individual is not their own guardian yet. I think it's enrolled in school. I think that's the VR designation. They're considered youth as long as they're still enrolled in an 18 to 22-year-old program.
That's correct, yeah, because that's what my students qualify for, and I have my students from the age of 18 to 22.
But the WIPA program funds what they call CWIC services, Community Work Incentive Coordinators, and that's what Ivy is, and there's a Takara James, and they do all work out of Jacksonville, and they cover like 37 counties.
Can't believe I'm
But they'll do benefits planning and analysis and explain to the individual and the family exactly how their benefits are going to be impacted by going to work. If the individual has APD or is on APD's wait list or is waiver funded, you can get with the employment liaison in your area, and they will assist in maintaining those benefits once you find out how they're going to be impacted.
Thank you. Wow.
do you have a question?
One last question. Yes, Abby.
Wait.
I just had a quick question for the lady in the back. So they can access those services through APD even if they're on the wait list? What did you say? Okay.
We have funding for assisting individuals on the wait list with employment services. We stopped at the beginning of this fiscal year.
Okay,
So
cool.
the employment liaisons have been through the training for Social Security Work Incentive.
Okay.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much.
Please-
I need to meet you.
If you don't know who they are, I'll tell you.
Please help me thank our panelists for this great discussion. Puts into perspective why we're doing what we're doing. Thank you, guys. Do you all? Now, next is Amelia Milton, who is with she is the Deputy Director of Public Guardianship at the Office of Public and Professional Guardians in the Department of Elder Affairs. And she's been a part of our team for about 4 years, I guess. Yeah, and has also just brought so many talents and gifts to this process. One being how to put together an awesome PowerPoint, which we didn't know how to do. So Amelia's going